Hey everybody, Ronnie here again. So today we're going to go over some object-oriented principles. Okay, want to get into what object-oriented programming really is. So I'm going to do this by we're going to build a new project, and I'm going to use this new project to explain this. So uh, in your NetBeans, go ahead and click on the New Project button. It's going to be a Java application. We'll go ahead and call this OOP tutorial and load it up. Okay, so just like the last one, we've got some extra stuff here that we don't need, we can use. Okay, once again, I'm going to change my name here. I like to have all of my curly braces lined up on the side. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, we're not going to actually do anything in this main class, okay, our OOP tutorial class at this point. What we want to do is create a new class, okay? So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to right-click under Source Packages and do New Java class. There we go. And let's take a second here at this point to talk about what an object is. Okay, an object in programming is actually kind of like an object in the real world. Okay, so everything that you're looking at right now is an object. Your monitor is an object. Your keyboard is an object. If you have a cup of coffee or an adult beverage with you, those are objects. Okay, and some objects can be built out of multiple objects. What we're going to do is we're going to use an example of a car. Okay, a car is an object. And so I'm going to name this class car. Um, some of the naming conventions that are used, all right, uh, with classes in Java, classes are always start with a capital letter. So this is capital C-A-R. And we'll hit finish. And we have a brand new car class. I'm going to, once again, clean this up. And always make sure you save. Okay. You can hit this button here. That saves everything. Okay. So any changes that you've made in all classes across your project will save when you hit that. If you've just made a change to a single class while you're still in it, you can hit Control S and that will save it as well. The most important thing is always make sure you save often. Okay, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So what we're doing is we're going to build a car out of pieces. Okay. In this particular case, we'll say we're building this to have a real function. Okay, so instead of a real world function. Okay, so let's say this is going to be like a inventory or product management system that it's going to become. All right. So the first thing that we always want to do And this is, of course, you go and sit back and you think about what you're going to do beforehand, maybe take some notes. And we always want to start by declaring variables. It's nice to have things in an order, okay? So you always want at the top of your class to have your variables. Then under that, you have encapsulation, your constructors, your methods and functions. So the first thing that we're going to declare is a private int called year. Always remember to put a semicolon at the end of your line. Now let's take a moment and discuss what we actually have here. Okay, private is the accessor, or not accessor. That's a different thing, but it's the level of protection. Okay, there are basically 3 levels of protection that you'll deal with. Okay, there are actually 4, but there are 3 that you'll actually deal with. Okay, public, protected, and private. Public means it can be seen from anywhere. Okay, private means it can only be seen within the scope that it is in. Okay, we'll talk about scope in just a second. And protected, it's a little bit in between. Okay, we'll get into that also, and that will be another video. Okay, but right here, let's talk about scope with private. Right now, we're saying that this is an integer called year, okay, and it's private. So its scope is the curly braces that it is in. All right. So anywhere within this class, within the class car, you can use the variable year. You cannot access the variable year from the OOP tutorial class, okay, because it's private, okay? It can only be accessed from this scope, okay? This is the extent of its scope. This is out of scope. So let's go ahead and do a couple more variables. I'm going to do private string, if we spell it correctly. We'll call that make. A private string model. Now you might notice that when I did int for integer, I started it with a lowercase I. When I did string for the S in string, I did that as a capital S. And this is important. You have to have the correct capitalization in everything, okay? The reason that int is lowercase is because it is the most basic type of data, okay? It doesn't break down anywhere below that. String is actually a class, okay? You don't have to import it, okay? It's so widely used that you don't have to import string, okay? Java knows you're going to be using it, but it is another class, okay? And it's a class that takes an array of chars and puts them together. And we'll get into arrays later. Maybe today. maybe today. And then let's do a private double called price and a private double called shipping. Okay. So what we've done is declared these variables. Now, you'll notice that the variables are just placeholders that help describe the object that we are creating with this class. Okay, so cars have years, cars have makes, cars have models, cars have prices. Okay, and cars have shipping costs. All right. The thing is, we're not going to actually be giving the cars function here, not just yet. Okay, we could, okay, because cars do things like, they start, they drive, they go in reverse, they brake, they stop, all kinds of things. But for this tutorial, we're not actually going to have the car do anything. It's going to just be the object. Okay, so these are all the variables are features, not features of the car, but things that make the car a car, that differentiate one car from another. So since we're not doing any functionality here, that means that we need to call on, we need to create the car somewhere, okay? And that is going to be from our OOP tutorial class, okay? I'm not doing it yet, but that's where it's going to be that we do that. But what I just, if you remember what I just said, the OOP tutorial class can't see any of the variables that make up the car class. So how do we make it so that it can access these? And we use something called accessors, all right? You can do this the easy way or the hard way, okay? The easy way, or the hard way, is actually just sitting there and typing out each accessor, okay? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 variables, so that would be 5 or 10 accessors, okay? Because I do want these to all be available to the main class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one of them, okay, just the last one, shipping's fine. I'm going to right click on it and go down to refactor, and then come over and do encapsulate fields. And this is going to pop up, and it's you get to create getters and setters, okay? These are accessors and mutators is what it's actually called. But we call them getters and setters in a more user-friendly way, okay? What we want to do is we want to select all of these for get, all of these for set. You won't always do that, okay? You will probably want to have most of your data to be available to be read, okay, but not necessarily to be changed. And that's what this is. A getter is get the information that's held in that variable. A setter is set the information to that variable, okay, and then hit the refactor. And you see that Java went and, or NetBeans rather, went and created a whole bunch of new things, okay? You'll see that there's 2 for each, okay? We'll start with year, okay? It created a public, okay? Remember, public can be read, can be accessed from any class in the project. So it created a public integer that it called getYear, okay? And what that does is it returns the year, okay? So if I want to get the year of the car, okay, from out here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this method, okay, this getter, getYear. And it will send back, you'll say, oh, okay, you want to know what year it is. It will check the year and return that to the calling method. The other side of this is a public, once again, accessible from anywhere. Void, this means that it does not return a value, okay? This is public int, it returns an integer, okay? And this one is called setYear, okay? And it's going to take in an integer that we'll call year. And then it just sets the year variable to the year that is sent in. This is called a parameter. This right here is called a parameter, okay? And we'll get into all of that. And we'll get into it, just about right now, because we're going to do something else. What we're going to do, I'm going to actually, over here, collapse all of this down, because we don't need all of this out here, okay? Just note that the getters and setters exist for every variable that we declared up there. There we go. All right. So here at the end, still in the class, okay, so before the curly brace here. Now we're going to create constructors. We'll create a constructor. All right. And we're going to do this by declaring a public, accessible from anywhere, car. Whoops. You notice I'm using the capital C here, and it doesn't have any return type. It doesn't even have a void. All right. And the reason why is this is going to be called when we create a car object. Then we're going to give it some parameters. Okay, parameters are values that are passed into the into the method. So first one's going to be an int called year, comma, a string called make, comma, a string called model, comma, a double called price, if I can type, and a double called shipping. And then we're going to do a curly brace, and it will automatically create the closing curly brace after that. Inside of here, now there's a whole bunch of things we can do in here, okay? But what I want to do is I want to take the input that is going to come in through these parameters and assign it to these variables. So I'm going to say this dot year equals year. So what this is saying is saying take the variable year that is actually attached to this object, okay, or namely this variable right here, and give it the value that is stored right here in the parameter year that was passed in. We're going to do the same thing for make, model, price, and shipping. So let's go ahead and do that. This dot make equals make. This dot model equals model. This dot price equals price. And this dot shipping equals shipping. Which I messed up. Okay. All right. So what this is called a constructor. Okay. This right here is a constructor. So when we create a car object, we've basically just created a contract that says when we want to say, create a car, we need to provide this information, okay? And then, which is through the parameters, and then we're going to take that information and use it to define what our car is. So make sure that you save. And now we're going to come out here to OOP tutorial. And in here, very much like every other class, okay, we're going to start by declaring some variables. So declare variables. Remember the two forward slashes? Turn this into a comment, okay? And comments they're there for us to be able to understand what we've done, but they are ignored by the compiler, okay? So what we're going to do is I want to declare the exact same variables that I declared in the car, okay? So we're going to copy these, come over here and paste. And we can do that. I'm going to do this and hit tab so that everything goes into the right place. All right. We need to get rid of the privates on this. Okay. So, these are the variables that we want to have in here, okay? Now we're doing these variables in the main method, okay? In fact, I'm going to do this entire class. No, not the entire class, but I'm going to do most of the functionality and put it in this main method because I'm trying to keep this as simple for an explanation as possible. We're also going to need to declare an array list. Which is, we'll go ahead and talk about it. Okay, there are different ways, different types of collections, okay, of things, okay. For example, there's array. Okay, array is a collection of the same type of things, and in an order. Okay, so an array of ints, of integers, is a list of integers that's stored in one object. Okay, this is getting into the object-oriented concepts here, because the array is an object all by itself. It actually is a part of the array class. Okay, arrays, like I said, it is a list. Okay, but it's a list of fixed size. Okay, you create it, you say how big it is. Okay, and that's as big as it will ever be. Okay, I want our list to be resizable. Okay, it makes things a lot easier. Okay, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with arrays. Arrays are really awesome, and they take in the they do things exactly the way they're supposed to. But I want to use an array list. Okay, an array list is just like an array. Okay, except that it you can add and subtract things from the array list and actually change the size of the array list. So if you you can actually start with an empty array list which has a size of 0. Add 3 items to it, and now the size is 3. Okay, take away an object. Now the size is 2, and it's not taking up extra memory, which can be a real concern for larger lists. Okay, and we'll have examples of that when we get to some more advanced topics. So we're going to have an array list. Okay, what is going to go in our array list? Okay, well, I want to put car objects in my array list. So I'm going to do an angle bracket, type car, just like in the name of our class. I'm going to call this car list. Once again, when we create a variable, we want to give it a good descriptive name. Okay. In this particular case, anywhere that we see the name of this variable, we know what this is. It is a list of cars. Then we need to tell it, so we're declaring it. Now we need to tell it to actually create a new object that is an array list of cars. So we hit equals new array list car. And then we're going to do open and closed braces and a semicolon. The open and closed braces say, construct this. Now you're going to notice that our under our array list, we have red squiggly lines. That means that something's not right. Okay, if we tried to run this right now, we would get a compiling error. And the reason why is because array list, unlike string, isn't automatically a piece of, brought in and provided by Java, although this is a Java class. Okay, ArrayList is a class in Java. So over here we've got our light bulb with the exclamation point. Click on that, and the first thing is going to say import java.util.ArrayList. So let's go ahead and do that. You see it pops it right up here under the package, import java.util.ArrayList. That is telling the compiler, make sure that we understand that the ArrayList class is going to be used in this class. And save. So now we're going to have a quick moment and talk about loops. Okay, there are different ways to continue gathering. You know what? I'm going to do that another time. Let me think here. I'm actually thinking about this. Do I really want to get into loops? Because that's kind of, once again, out of scope for this discussion. Let's just go ahead and create a car. Okay. So what I'm going to do is do car equals new car. Okay, so right here, let's go ahead and go over everything that we just did. Okay, car is the name of the class. Okay, so what we're saying is, hey, I want an object of type car, which I'm going to call car. Okay, these are different because this is a capital C, this is a lowercase c. And then we tell it, let's make our object as a new instance of the car class. Now we can hit the semicolon here, but it's not going to take away the red squiggly line. And the reason why is because if you remember, let's go ahead and save this for a second. If you remember, back here, we created a constructor. Okay, so it's expecting when we create a new car that it's going to have some information: year, make, model, price, and shipping. So let's go ahead and put that in. We're going to put it in the inside the braces. All right, so remember, we're going to do an int, a string, a double, and a double. And it's got to be in that order. So we're going to call this a 2019 strings always go in quotation marks. Ford Mustang, and it's going to cost, let's say, $25,365. And then the shipping, let's say it costs $1,500 to ship. And all of a sudden, the red squiggly line goes away. Fantastic. Now we're going to take our car and we're going to take our car list and we're going to add our car. And it automatically puts in the car there because it was kind of obvious. And don't forget the semicolon. So now what we've done is we said, okay, this is what makes up the car. Okay. Then we created a brand spanking new object that is a car. Okay. This object is, like I said, a 2019 Ford Mustang with a price and shipping. All right. Now let's say that we wanted to, and then we added this car, the Mustang, to the array list called car list. So let's say that we wanted to make another car. Well, we don't have to completely create a new constructor, okay, or a new object. We're going to take the existing one, car, and we're going to say equals a new car. And we're going to create a new car through this constructor. Okay, so let's say this is a 2019 Chevrolet Camaro, and it cost $27,581.21. And it cost $1,285 to ship. Semicolon at the end. And this is going to construct another new car using the same car object. So let's go ahead and do the car list.add. And well, so let's say that we want to create another car, but we don't have the price or the shipping. Okay, well, remember we said, hey, we're making this contract. If we're going to create a car, a brand new car object, then these have to be, this is all the information that must be provided. Is there a way around that? And the answer is yes. We can actually change the values of the variables, and this is going to explain all of this encapsulation, the getters and setters. So let's take our car, and we're going to want to change first the year. Okay, dot set year. You see that right here. We can actually just hit enter, and I'm going to change the year to 2018. Car dot set make, and we will make that a Dodge. Car dot set model, and we'll make that a Challenger. Car dot set price, and we will make that 0 because we don't have one. Okay, but we do still want to have something there. And car dot set shipping, and we'll make that 0 as well. So what we just did is we went in and manually changed all of these values. Okay. Now, what's going to happen, do you think, when we do car list dot add car? All right. Well, there's actually a pretty simple way to do this, to check this. So I'm going to do system. Whoops. System dot out dot print line, which is PRINTLN, but it's print line. And I'm going to say car list. So let's go ahead and hit run. And okay, it gives us the location of our array list. That's its actual location in memory. But it is not what we actually want. So let's do this. We're going to say 4. What I did is I typed the word 4 and hit the tab button. It will automatically make this for you. Okay. So I'm going to say car list dot size. Okay, let me go ahead and explain this. This is actually a loop. Okay. What it's going to do, it's saying 4. Ignore the 4. Okay. What it's going to do is it's going to say, hey, let's start with the number 0. Okay. And this is an important concept. When we start counting in programming, 0 is where our start point is. Okay. We go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Okay. So we start at 0. So long, and we create a variable. It's an integer called I. Okay, and we start it at 0. So long as I, the value of I, is less than car list.size. Okay, then we're going to run some code between these curly braces. Okay. And then once that code is run, we're going to add 1 to I. Okay, so we initialize it to 0. We check and see, is I less than the size of the car list array list? And if it is, do this. Then when we're finished doing this, we're going to add 1 to I, and then we're going to come back here. Okay, we're never going to go back over here. Okay, but we're going to come back here, and we're going to say, hey, is I still less than the size of car list? All right, so what we've got here, okay, is we created the list. Okay, we created a car, okay, this Mustang, and we added it to it. Okay, so the list size is 1. Its first the index of the first car that is saved there is 0. Okay, so the index is 0. That's smaller than the actual size, okay, which is 1. So we're going to do a system.out.println car list dot get the index of I. Okay, car list dot get bracket brace I brace closing brace. That's saying get me the value of the index right there. Okay, and then let's go ahead and print out. Well, let's do this. And then we're going to do dot get year. And we're going to then copy this. We're going to paste this 5 times or 4 times. And we're going to change this to get make. And remember, these are the getters that we created way back when. Okay, get year, get make, get model, get price, get shipping. So get model, get price, and get shipping. And save. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do, and this is strictly, well, and let's do this. And just do a system.out.println. And that's going to go and put a space between. Okay, so I'm just doing this to show what we've done. Okay, so I'm going to copy this entire for statement. Okay, and the next thing we're doing is we're creating the Camaro. Okay, we're creating the Camaro. We're adding the Camaro to the list. Okay, so let's come down here. We're going to paste the exact same for loop. Now, when we do this, we're changing the number of entries in our car list. Okay, now we have 2 entries, the Ford Mustang and the Chevy Camaro. And so it will go and say, okay, we're starting with at index 0. Okay, 0 is less than 2. Do this. Okay, add 1. So now our value is 1. 1 is less than 2. Do all this. Add 1 to I. Okay, 2 is 2 less than 2? No, 2 is not less than 2. 2 is equal to 2. So we're going to go ahead and at that point leave this for loop. Okay, so then we're going in and manually setting these values, these parameters, values of that make up the car. Okay, and we're adding that to the list. And we're going to do our list one more time. Print our list one more time. So the question is, okay, and this is a complete program at this point. Okay, it's not interactive yet. Okay, and I think I'm going to go ahead and make it interactive tomorrow, but we're going to have to go through and learn about loops and decision making. okay, when we do that. And that is the next thing to learn. So this is still not very interactive, okay? We're going to run it. It's going to show us some stuff in the output console, but that's really about it, okay? So what we're going to do is it's going to start creating cars, okay, out of the car class. It's going to start creating cars and then displaying what is, adding them to the list and displaying what's in the list, okay? Now, what do you think is going to show? Okay, we know what's going to show here, okay, because at this point we've only created one car, the Mustang, okay? So the only thing that this can show is the Mustang. This time we created another car, okay, the Camaro. So we know it's going to show the Mustang and the Camaro, okay? Here we have the Challenger. What is going to get displayed at this point? Take a second, think about it. And now we're going to go ahead and run and see what happens. So, first thing that we did is we created the Mustang and added it to the list. Okay, so it showed the Mustang. Okay, the second one, we created the Camaro and added it to the list, and it showed the Mustang and the Camaro. Then we created the Dodge Challenger. Okay, we did that by altering the existing car that was in memory, okay, and then added it to the list. So what happened? Well, we got the Mustang. The existing car that we had was the Camaro. Notice the Camaro became the Challenger. And then we said add this car to the list. Okay, so it added another copy of this object, a clone of this object, if you would, to the list. So now we have 3 cars in the list, 3 objects. But the Camaro got changed by what we did right here. Okay, because what we did is we literally changed the data for the most recent car that was created. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. So, I hope you understand a little bit more what makes an object. And that's really where object-oriented programming gets its name, okay? We are working with objects, okay? In this particular case, our objects are cars, okay? And I wanted to hit a little bit on scope, okay? So you understand, these are only accessible in the car class, but by using getters and setters, we can access those variables in our main class. And then we went through how to create an object from a class, okay, and how to work with it just a little bit. And some of the rules about what makes an object, and what changing those variables actually does. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't, hit the subscribe button. It's right down there. In the next video, we're going to get into conditional statements and loops. So thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.